So I'd like to introduce my good friend, next door neighbor, business partner, and art wife, Shanna Kunz.
Oh my goodness.
We spend a lot of time together because we're next door neighbors.
Oh, wow.
So, and we have an online course that we've been doing since COVID hit. And so we do a lot of filming and workshops and stuff. So.
Emphasis on the stuff. Anyway, a little bit about Shanna. Shanna is an incredible landscape artist. Her father was in the, worked for the Forest Service. So she grew up camping and fishing and all the Uintas, the mountains here around Utah. And
how do you live here and not be part of the mountains?
So she fell in love with the landscape due to that upbringing. And she has a connection especially to trees. She loves trees. And I think you're in for a real treat. Shanna has won, she won Best of Show at the Hockaday Museum, plus Best in Show at the Bozeman Museum, and the Jackson, the plein air, what was that?
Oh, for the Rocky Mountain Plein Air Painters.
Right, she won Best in Show in that one. So she's an incredible artist. I think you're in for a treat. I think one of Shanna's strengths as an artist is her unique voice. We talk a lot about having a unique voice in your paintings, and that's what helps set you apart. And I think that is one of Shanna's strongest. Nobody paints like Shanna, and you can tell a Shanna Kunz painting from across the room. There's so much emotion to them. I watch her paint, and I just like, damn, girl, that's just so good.
It's also my biggest insecurity, when your paintings don't look like everybody else's paintings look. Sometimes I walk away and go, what am I doing wrong? So you finally get to that point where you just go, it is what it is. This is what I do. I'm not ever going to be considered a realist landscape painter. They're always going to be a little more contemporary, maybe. But they're moody. Does that say a lot about my personality?
Yeah, I have to do this every single time we film.
I talk slow. I talk soft. I'm not a big, loud talker. But I will tell you, I'm very nervous. And the more you talk and the more questions you ask, the less nervous I'll be. Because I like engagement. And there's no question I won't answer.
We'll ask you a lot of dumb questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you always start on a white canvas, or do you put a...
No, I'm going to put a ground down. I always work to a ground for the same reason Jeremy said. I want to be able to judge my values. So something that's really important to me is close value ranges. Condensed value patterns is really important to me, and using temperature shifts within those value patterns to make the excitement. I'm not necessarily a strong high contrast painter. I kind of like the more sophisticated, more delicate paintings in art history. Twatman and Dwight Tryon and Whistler are my, got to throw George Innes in there too, are my very favorite art masters from the turn of the century. And I have a tendency to study American painters. We are Americans, and Americans approach things very differently. We're jumping with both feet, and let's find our individuality. Where I love the French Impressionists, I love Monet, but there's a different attitude to people from other countries. So my main study has been finding American painters around the turn of the century, because there was just so many incredible painters then. And if I weren't an artist, I probably would be working in a museum, because I love art that much. Not just painting, but art. There are some people who paint because they love the act of painting. And then there are other people that paint because they love the visual imagery. I am the visual imagery person. So starting in watercolor for 15 years, long before I ever painted in oil, my paintings have very thin passages in them too, because I was a watercolorist for so long. And in fact, I have to play tricks on myself. Oh, which I got to get my palette knife out. I have to play tricks on myself to get heavier paint down because of that. And that in itself gives me a lot of insecurities. But, like I said, it is what it is. I got my Q-tips. Anybody else use Q-tips? Yeah, all the time. That comes from the watercolor days. So here in Utah, we have this phenomenal little place called Mount Carmel. And Maynard Dixon had a home and a studio down there. And that's where I think he lived there pretty much towards the end of his life and painted all in that area. Well, the piece that I'm working from is along the side of the road in Mount Carmel. And it lends itself to almost a Taos style of painting. So how to bring my more tonalist style and a Taos style together, that's going to be my challenge today. Because the Taos painters have a lot more color than what a tonalist painter does. So somewhere I got to find a little in between. Not that one. Get back there. Do you guys all use Notanizer?
What is it?
Does anybody here use the Notanizer? So because my paintings are with my compressed values, the value is so important, and the simplification becomes more important. The more you're concentrating on compressed values, the more you have to simplify. So this is, back to the piece, here is the piece that I'm going to be working on. But I want to know what the values would be, or could be. And the reason why I like this Notanizer, it looks like a little yin-yang sign. The reason why I like it is because you can completely change your value patterns to whatever you want them to be. It can be a low-key piece. It can be a very high-key piece. You can change where your contrast is going to be, how much contrast is going to be in there. You're not limited to what you see. My college professor at Utah State always said, do not be a slave to the tyranny of things as they appear. It's your job to be a composer. If you want to just paint what's there, what you're seeing, and this is mostly for plein air painting, if you want to paint what's there, we got cameras for that. And cameras do a lot better job at bringing in information than a painter does. But if you want poetry, you've got to simplify, simplify, simplify. And you have to be the one to orchestrate, where's the darks going to be? Where are the lights going to be? What's my shape placement going to be? You have all those decisions to make in order to make it a piece that means something, that is not just replicating what you see. So I already at home put my value patterns at.
Is that a software or?
It's an app. Mm-hmm. And I think it's $1.99.
Okay.
It might be up to $2.99 now. And it's worth its weight in gold. Notanizer.
And I think it's just a one-time payment.
It is. It's just a one-time payment, and you've got it for the rest of your life. But the best thing about it is you still get to orchestrate your own value patterns. You're not stuck with what you see. So this is mine. My sky and my ground is going to be the overall shape, and it will be high key. And then I've got a mid-range and then more of the darks. So that's how when I look at this, this kind of helps me decide what my ground is going to be. Do I have more lights or do I have more darks? I kind of started, I was trying to watch myself paint this painting last night, trying to visualize it. And I love to work to a violet ground because it lends itself more towards a dark value patterns. And then I can lift out my lights. So that's kind of what my plan is, what my plan of action is. Now I'm going to go back to the image. And like Jeremy, comes a time I just have to put the image aside and just listen to the painting and respond to the painting for the painting's sake. But that wouldn't be right now. So my favorite part about this isn't the trees. My favorite part about this whole painting is the chamisa, so the rabbit brush. So the whole painting is meant to support that rabbit brush.
Was this a picture that you took?
Yeah.
And that's the exact picture, or did you crop the picture that you took into that?
Oh, I've cropped it, and in fact, I've put it into Notanizer and brought some things down and removed some things. There were other buildings that were across the back, and so with Procreate, I have Procreate in my little pen, and so I'll take an image and change like numerous things so that it's right where I want it to be. A lot of times I use dynamic symmetry, especially in my large pieces. I use a lot of dynamic symmetry for shape placement too. I'll get you the name of the book, and I'll get you a really great video to watch that explains it all. And here we go. Like I said, please feel free to talk. It will make me less nervous.
I like your sweater.
Thank you.
We'll keep talking.
Okay.
It's not standing.
This is,
That count box you just said you.
oh yes, this is a guy named Alex Rios, and he just started painting, but he's selling these. I got mine for $100. He might be up to $120 now. And it comes with this, but I use Josh Bean's because I'm using a little bit bigger palette. But it comes with one of these panel holders. It's just a great traveling one. I usually use the same one that Jeremy uses, which is Josh Bean's Prolific Painter. But this is brand new, so I thought I'd break it in down here.
What's his Instagram handle? He's got. I'll look it up.
Yeah, just look up Alex Rios on Instagram and you'll find him.
Like Puma Light?
Yes, that's what it is. Puma Light. Do you have one too? Yeah, that's what it is.
If we were home painting, Shanna would have some really loud hard rock music.
Yes, I would.
So you guys have a class that you provide? What is it?
Yeah, it's an online instruction course.
Okay.
In fact,
You're painting. It's called Inspired to Paint. We started it over 3 years ago.
We started it as COVID hit.
Good time.
We'd been talking about it for a long time because Liz has done a lot of videos and had her own Go ahead, Liz, keep talking.
So every month we each do a full-length lesson, what we call a full-length lesson. It's usually at least 2 hours where you're filming the whole painting start to finish. And we've got 3 cameras, so there's one right on the palette, on a close-up of the painting, and then a further away of talking. But so we do a full-length lesson every month. We do a concept lesson. So a concept lesson might be like, let's just talk about edges, or let's talk about temperature shifts, or let's talk about composition. So you're really focusing on one element. And that's where the students are learning the most, is our concept lessons. And then we do art history, and Shanna knows more about art history than anybody I know. You ever want to talk art history, contact Shanna. She's incredible with what she knows. We do business tips, and then we have group critiques where the students submit images for critiques, so then we will go in and critique them on Photoshop or something, and then they get uploaded and all the members can watch that critique. So we learn a lot by seeing, how we would fix things, what's working, what's not. We do product reviews. We did a product review on those easels, on linen, on the notenizer, and things like that. Plus then we do what we call our evenings on the patio, where Shanna and I just kind of sit down and we just talk art.
Stuff that you wish that you could hear when you first start, like business tips, or how do you get into galleries, or are galleries the best way to go, or how much should you use social media? A lot. All those little things that nobody told us when I've been painting now 32 years. And I wish I would have been able to sit down and pick the brain of somebody who had been painting for 30 years. So that's what we're doing. We've made it really extremely affordable. It really is our way of giving back.
So inspiredtopaint.com, there's a lot of free content that we have on there. Then we have 4 different memberships. We have an all-access pass, which is a subscription-type membership. It's $39 a month. You can get your first month for $10. And so that's a recurring subscription that you can cancel anytime. And then we have a VIP pass, which is a one-time fee for a specific amount of time, a 3, 6, or 12-month time period that you just pay that one fee. And then so if you buy the 12th month, at the end of the 12th month, you're not obligated to buy anymore. It's done. And then we have a Coons membership, which is $29 a month, where you just study with Shanna. So you see all of Shanna's videos. So if you just want to focus on landscape, or we have a Robbins membership, same $29 if you just want to study, still items. So I think we give everything on these videos.
Yeah.
It's great.
Shanna, you're kind of rubbing in with this.
It's
flat. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, this is a watercolor brush, and it's the best to get a ground down and get a nice thin.
Like destroy the brush.
Oh yeah, I really destroy my brushes. I brought nice new brushes for you guys so that nobody judged me, but my brushes are a disaster, and I don't clean them because I paint every day. So why would you clean them when you just get up and paint every day?
Buy more.
Right?
That's what my kids say about brushing teeth.
Yeah.
Oil, and dip them in oil and leave it wet and set it aside. And the next morning it's still wet and just keep
I'm
going.
getting a little bit better at that. They always have just gone in my turp jar upside down. And I know that's a big no-no, but I'm getting better. I got the what is the name of that green stuff? Natural
Natural terpenoid.
terpenoid natural. And I've been trying to use that a little bit more, but it depends on the given day. Sometimes I'm good and sometimes I'm bad. So all those rules, I don't know if you guys listen to, watch Elizabeth's social media. Somebody told her the other day that she was not holding her brush right. And I can tell you, I don't think there is a right way, and if it is, I'm probably have broken every rule too. Because I paint like this and like this and like this, and Is there a correct way to hold your brush?
No.
I didn't think so. What an idiot.
Oh, he went on and on and on.
Oh, no. I didn't find out exactly. It's beautiful already.
Shanna, are you an indirect painter? Do you go in with the light colors over this when it's wet, or do you let
Yes.
it dry first?
I'm very much an indirect, well, both.
Okay.
Because I'll keep working, but the finishing touches usually have to come, or any glazes, because I do love glazing. They'll come after it's all dry. And I didn't bring it, but I love to work with that cold wax medium. This painting's got quite a bit of cold wax. That painting's got quite a bit of cold wax. That's one of my tricks of trying to build up a better surface.
Do you have medium in that little cup there?
Yes, this is my Neil McGilp, but I'm not going to use that until I get closer to the end. In order to layer paint, you have to be able to change the viscosity with each layer. So this is my change viscosity thing.
So you just do solvent on your first layer?
On my first layer. Yeah, and this is nothing more than a drawing at this point. Believe it or not, this is a pretty limited palette for me. I've got 3 yellow oranges. I've got quinacridone rose, ultramarine blue, and a little cerulean. And then I've got my Shiva yellow light and my quinacridone burnt orange, which they don't make. Daniel Smith does not make traditional quinacridone colors anymore. But M. Graham makes quinacridone rust, which is the exact same pigment as what Daniel Smith used to make. And I like it because it's so transparent, but it's got enough kick, enough staining power that it can flip a color, warm or cool for sure. And then there is a Daniel Smith color that you can't get it anymore. And I bought every single possible tube I could get, and it's called Raw Umber Violet. So you can make that with Gamblin, with asphaltum and quinacridone violet together will make that same color. But can't buy the tubes anymore because there's like 35 of them at my house.
How much are you selling it for?
Let me know. I need to have it written down somewhere so I can understand that.
Raw Umber Violet,
Okay.
yeah, it's the most beautiful modifier. It'll take any color and just barely make it more subtle, just barely temper it. It's a beautiful, beautiful color.
Okay.
So I'm already going to start putting in my value patterns. My darks are all connected. Now I'm going to connect most of my mediums, my medium values.
Now, when you said you toned the canvas, I was assuming you were going to.
I'm going to.
On medium value to begin with, then add the darker.
And I do that as well. Lately, I've been doing the drawing first and then going in really strong with my darks. And then I will still do.
But it can be done the other way.
Yes. Oh, and most of the time, yeah, most of the time I do. Well, this year I'm making some changes. So this is going to be my lightest lights. Yeah, I don't like to work to a white canvas.
What role does painting and plein air play for you?
I don't, so I've been on the circuit and done some of those plein air shows and all of that, but then that's when I walk away going, you don't paint like anybody else. You must suck. So I don't do them anymore. I do ones, like maybe invitational ones that they know how I paint. But the competition, I just don't want to do those anymore. So what plein air does for me is it gives me color notes. It gives me all the information that I can rely on later on as I'm going back and working from an image or even working from my head. I just don't enjoy art at a competitive level. I don't see the sense in that. We're all different, and we all need to be different. Every style has a voice, and every voice has an audience. You just have to find that audience. And I think then that when a big giant movement like that comes in, people start maybe painting for prizes. And so the paintings become a little more homogenized, and people with really different voices kind of get pushed out. I don't know, does that anybody agree with me on this? And I think it's really important. I think it is the most important thing that you can do is paint who you are, and what you have to say. That's what art is. Not painting, but art. That's what art is.
So do you go out once a week or?
I don't go out in the winter. I'm a fair weather. Last year, I spent a lot of time outdoors because I went up to Bozeman and painted for a week. I went to Pennsylvania and painted for a week. I've been everywhere out painting. So I was out a lot more than what I normally am. When I have deadlines for shows, though, I'm in the studio if I'm working for shows, which I am right now.
Do you paint on canvas anymore or just panel?
My husband makes these linen panels for me, and it's Clausen 66 on gator board. So they're very lightweight, they're very sturdy. With archival, the adhesive is archival. So,
Even the big ones are
yeah,
made of that?
yeah. Yeah, we stumbled upon this great big huge heat press. He used to iron them on for me with a sheet over and iron them on. And now we've got this big heat press that will almost do a 36-48. It'll do a 34-46. So he makes all of my panels, and he's starting to make them for a few other people too. Makes all Liz's.
Nice.
Cindy Barron, he makes Russell Case. So.
Is this what you call the ground period?
This is the ground, yes.
Okay.
Just getting a value down. And then I still will wipe back in even then. I think I'll go a little darker in my darks.
And did you say why you use the violet as the ground? Do you always use that?
No, I don't. I don't always do anything, but I do love this violet. Will give me a little more contrast, and I can go for some darker values with the violet underground. Like if I want a really peaceful, quiet piece like this one. This one, I can't remember what I think I used a yellow ochre on this. The big, the one with the swans. This was purple. This one was burnt sienna. And this one was a little bit of yellow ochre with some of my raw umber violet was the whole ground on it. So it just depends on how I want the feeling of the painting when it's done. At this stage, I'm always looking for areas where I can connect my values, because that connection is what organizes your painting. So right early on, I'm looking for a way for the eye to go, okay, I want you to come up. The eye always enters from the bottom of a painting. Scientists have proven it. Which scientists, I don't know. But I want you to be able to move throughout that whole entire picture plane and find enough interesting things that'll pull you back in and you'll continue to keep looking. So I'm looking, I don't want any sharp angles that are taking, you guys all know this, you're all advanced painters, so.
Keep going.
I loved, there's a little tiny bale of hay over here, and it's small in the image, but I'm going to make it larger in life because I think it's a nice element to be able to put a pop of light on the top of here and some light on the light side of that. So I've made a decision to make it bigger than what it is. And my Q-tips come from my watercolor days, because I used to use them all the time in watercolor to lift paint off. And it seems to keep your lights cleaner to me. You're all being quiet. I'm going to put a taller tree right here to balance out over here.
So I'm not as familiar with the beeswax medium you're talking about.
Yeah, cold wax.
Yeah, when do you apply that?
As I'm starting to build the surface after this, when I start painting, I'll just take a scoop of it and put it down on my palette, and with each big pile, I'll just put a little bit in there and really blend it in nicely.
So you blend it in
With the paint, yeah, and not with each individual one, just in the whatever color I'm using. I'll just grab it and throw it in a little bit.
For texture, you mean, or?
Yes, yeah.
So it's like a medium, you can take as much as you want and
50-50. You don't ever want to use more than 50% of the cold wax with 50% of color, because then it starts making the color unstable. But you can go up to 50-50 with it.
And then does it dry or does it stay wet?
Oh no, it dries. It's got a dryer in it, just like your Neoma Gilp would. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's luscious.
So
It's
when
very
it dries,
luscious.
Will it melt in heat or does it?
No, you've got enough paint in there. It's not like a real encaustic painting. If you have an encaustic painting, you don't want to put that in heat. But this has got enough traditional paint in it that you don't have to deal with the same. I mean, I wouldn't put any painting out in like the hot sun, but it's not going to be like an encaustic painting.
Shana, what blue do you have on your palette? From here, it's like beautiful iridescent. Is it like a cerulean there?
Just that right now I have a cerulean on my palette.
But
Yeah.
but what's the blue on your canvas there too?
Oh, that's just ultramarine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just ultramarine. I pay really careful attention to my values and my shapes right here. If your composition doesn't work, no amount of pretty paint is ever going to make the painting work.
So what, this cold wax,
You use it for what purpose?
To build a surface, to build a little more texture. Mhm. Usually, but by the time I'm ready to put color down, which this is not color, this is still a drawing to me, the painting is, my problems have been resolved. The compositional problems have been resolved.
Looks great from here.
That's kind of the way I like it to be.
That's pretty cool.
There's quite a few people who work to a value ground, like Charlie. What's Charlie's? Charlie Hunter. In fact, he doesn't usually go back and put more paint on. He stays pretty much in. Allie, you're really tonal. Do you work to a ground like this too?
In plein air settings, no, because the colors, I get tripped out too much. So I never actually tone my canvas.
But in the studio, do you?
I haven't, normally I'm a direct on. However, there's times though where in my brain and I'm thinking, okay, how would I go about making this painting work? At that point, sometimes I can envision myself, well, if I want to see some little shimmering light between paint and having that glow come through, then
Yes.
okay, then I should tone.
And I love that juxtaposition of one color with another color peeking through it. It makes it, there's a continuity.
It really does, and I think I would probably do that only if I have a small study to work from first, where I kind of have the end roadmap in mind. Because then it becomes a game of, you can put any color in there that you want, and you can do anything that you want if you kind of know where you're heading.
Especially if your values hold together, if it's simplified enough. So now I'm going back again to make sure that my eye is moving throughout the painting. I don't even care if it's a dark or not in that. I just want to make sure that it's working here. One, up to here, here. Now, there is also one of these big watering things in here. What do they call these? Watering thingies. Water thingies.
Irrigation thing?
Yes, irrigation thing. And I think I might put that in there. It might give it a little extra oomph, but I'll decide later if it works. Okay, I move around a lot when I'm painting. I probably should be 25 pounds lighter because I move so much. And I do work with a mirror for all my compositional decisions. I'm looking in the mirror before I'm going back to the painting.
Sometimes I put the paintings upside down and see what
Yeah.
something about gravity
And the mirror does exactly the same thing.
upside down.
Yeah.
And it's very turning back up.
Get you thinking outside the box a little bit.
Do you mostly just use Canva?
I do. Almost, they've put so much time and effort into making paint and solvents healthier for us that I do use a lot of it. There's so many good brands of paint out there, though, and I think everybody's becoming pretty conscientious of it. I used to use Liquin, and every single day at 2 o'clock, I just would hit a wall and have to go to sleep. I mean, it was really affecting me. So, and as soon as I got rid of the Liquin and started using the Neo McGill, it quit. So that's not a scientific experiment, but good enough for me. Okay, I kind of like where it's at. It's got lots of movement to it. The values are working. Now it's time to start introducing some color. The whole painting, for me, the most important part of the painting was the rabbit brush. So I'm going to, I forgot to get this out. I'm going to put a color down so that I'm reacting to the color and not just simply choosing it. It becomes a reactive thing.
Shanna, in your studio, when you're doing a larger paint or even this side, do you mix pools of paint to work from, or do you just?
Sometimes I do in values. Say I'm going to work a middle value. I've got a big plane like in here. Then I will, because I'm looking for a variety of warm and cool within that value range. And if I have a large area, I'll do that. If not usually in the smaller areas, but if you struggle with value at all, reading value, that is the very best way to paint, because you're right on the money. You can tell exactly what that value is and mix just different variations of temperature of that color. I like to start a little more vibrant and then temper as I go. Some people like a really grayed area and add color at the end. I like to start with the color and then temper it as it goes back. Now I have decided that these trees are going to be fall because it's fall, and I'm in the mood for fall. I'm tired of green. Painting all over Pennsylvania this summer. Holy moly, how many shades of green can a person find?
Now what brush is that? Is that a rosemary brush?
It is a rosemary brush. I have been a spokesperson for Princeton brushes, and I love Princeton, but I couldn't get my hands on any new ones for a while, so I hurried and got some of some rosemary for the,
So what one is that? Are you looking at now?
this one that I'm working with now is the Bravura long flat. I love flats. This one is a little softer. I normally like a little stiffer brush, but every once in a while you have to have something really soft to just kind of float the paint on top. I'm kind of a painter that creeps up on things. You know, I got about this, and I creep on with the about, and then at the end, then I'll put the exact color and the exact value down. I know there are people out there that paint, that put the exact value, the exact color in every stroke and just complete the painting. Not very many people can do that, though. I think that's a pretty rare thing. There's always, with the fall leaves, there's always a little bit of that beautiful light green as the leaves are losing their color. It's that transition color.
What are you using to get those lighter greens?
This Shiva Yellow Citron, right here.
It's just one color?
Just one color. Well, nothing's ever just one color. I kind of mix, like, I got some cad yellow light, some yellow ochre, and some cad yellow deep. So then, and there's a little bit of all of it in there. Now, one of my favorite parts of painting is jumping in with my light value, my sky color, because my favorite part of painting is cutting in. So once I've got established my values and about my color here, I want to put my sky in, because everything is relational, right? Where we have to compare this value to this value, this temperature to this temperature. So I'm going to jump in and get the sky in first.
Shanna, do you varnish your wood?
I do. I varnish it like as soon as it's dry to the touch. I never used to, but I use that Gamvar, which is easily removable. So now I do. If a painting goes out to a gallery and it comes back, I have a bad attitude about it. And I'm mad at it. It will always get reworked. Very seldom, if they come back, they don't go out the same painting. But so the Gamvar makes it so that you can easily, just with some Gamsol, remove it and go back into it. I used to, because I knew it would always go out another painting, I used to not varnish.
So what colors are you using to get the sky again now?
I got a little cerulean and a little phthalo, and I'm going back and forth between the two of them because the cerulean is cooler and the phthalo, the ultramarine is warmer. So
Phthalo was up more up in the sky and then the green.
there's a little bit of that cerulean in here, up in here. So this is the cerulean. There's little pops of it, but most of this is ultramarine. And most of the cerulean stays down closer to the horizon line.
Can you explain why you're doing that?
If you go look outside and you look up what's close to you, that's ultramarine. And as it gets more and more particles, air particles and atmosphere, it goes greener and greener. So the cerulean is a better color. And even a little tiny touch of phthalo green at the horizon really makes the sky read atmospherically. In fact, I'll put one in. I even brought my phthalo.
Color of oxygen.
Pardon?
The sky is the color of oxygen.
Color of oxygen.
From the sun reflecting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Atmosphere, yeah.
Does that vary regionally
From
to
a
any
scientific point of
extent?
view.
A little bit, but no.
No, because like in Nebraska, maybe sometimes it's the time of year, but it
Ye-
seems like
Depending on the humidity. It really depends on the humidity of how deep the sky will be. Or now, this is kind of more like painting plein air. Because when I'm at home, I might do a completely yellow sky or a completely grayed sky. This is just if you want it to feel a little more like nature.
Here in Utah in the wintertime at the ski resorts, the sky is so blue that if you were to paint it that blue, people would say it is.
It couldn't be, yeah.
But you get where you have more humidity and the sky isn't that intense.
Like
Relatively.
in Washington and Oregon and Maine, anywhere that's up on the coast, it's this beautiful gray blue because there's just so much moisture in the air.
That's totally California.
Yeah, it's California though. I've seen California have cerulean skies, absolutely cerulean skies that are beautiful, very green.
And when you look up, you can almost have a little bit of cobalt.
So I'm gonna just for the sake of doing it, I'm just gonna put a little teeny tiny bit of phthalo green. And
I'm gonna quote you in the gallery. How beautiful the great blue skies are.
oh, it is.
Complaining about
I did
how
a
dark it is.
I did a 2-year series of the Seattle area back in, 15 years ago. And that's all I did was paintings from that area, and it was so fun to just explore that atmosphere. I do work in series too. I think that the key to growth is not to paint a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'll spend a whole year on a particular tree, or a whole year on a particular season, or a whole year. Last year was all high key. Every painting I did last year, save maybe 2 or 3, was all a high key paintings, compressed between, like this, compressed between a 1 and a 5, 1 being white, 10 being black, 1 and a 5. I've done a dozen pieces that were all low key. I think that's how you learn. You don't learn by just trying a little bit of everything. You learn something and you master it and you master it and you master it and you research it and you figure out how to shift that and what it can do. Limited palettes are the same way. You work with a limited palette, you're going to find out how many grays you can make. And the painting really is about the grays. If you want to make a painting really colorful, it's about the grays that you use to make that happen. I've had painting of Jane Woodhead's, that winter piece. That is all grade, except for the beautiful whites that are in there, but even her blues are so tempered, so great, and it just makes that painting incredible. It's an incredible piece.
Shanna, who are some of the artists when you're venturing out and thinking I'm doing high key or I'm doing low key? Who are your go-to?
Twatman, Whistler, and Tryon. Dwight Tryon had a lot of high key pieces, and Emil Carlson. Emil Carlson had a lot of really high key pieces, but Twatman, that's almost all he did. It's hard to find any low key pieces from Twatman. Okay, I'm going to paint. So when you're doing the phthalo thing, the phthalo green, get your white out first.
Yeah.
And then just a little tiny drop of that phthalo.
It's the vanilla extract color.
Oh my goodness, you're not kidding. So strong. But atmospherically, it reads so beautifully, pushing back.
Pretty.
Let's put a little more green in there. And cerulean has a lot of green or yellow, making it a green. I never started out as an alla prima painter, nor will I ever be. So it's been really quite educational for me to watch Elizabeth paint, because she is an alla prima painter, and she's thinking with every brush stroke, she's thinking what that temperature is going to be and how to turn it in space. Mine are a little more spontaneous, maybe.
So you've been painting for almost an hour. If you want to get to a good stopping point, then let them come up and maybe take.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I lose track, you guys, so you're gonna have to make me stop.
And we're going to let you go beyond your 3:45 mark because you got started a little bit late.
Well, that's his fault, that's mine. Okay, I'll let you get up and walk around, and then I'll jump back in.
Yeah, with something different. Thank you for doing that. What is that?
So this has got a little bit of Naples yellow light and a little bit of my raw umber violet, and then I grabbed a little bit of yellow ochre for that really soft, pale, grassy yellow. So this is still part of my creeping up on process. I'm just putting an about color and an about value, and then I'll stop and fine tune everything.
They look like lilacs, even in purple.
Yeah, I love
They
to,
look like lilacs.
I want some of that purple coming through the whole painting. Even with my brushwork, I'm not putting in like a really finessed brushwork until the end, because I don't want every single brush stroke to be important. I want masses and then just the right brush stroke or just the right edge. That's one reason I think I scrub with the side of my brush, because I have found that I can keep that purple coming through if it's a really thin scrubbed on value or color.
Mark Majori says it's that purple, that Dick Blick purple is his secret weapon.
I can see that in his work.
It's that purple.
Oh.
What you're painting with.
Oh,
And his is in a tube, I can't remember what it's called.
so I mean I get to make $1 million
Almost.
on the
yeah.
show?
I thought it right away. But it works, you're right.
It's from Dick Flip.
I think it's called
You know what, this is,
red purple.
and all this was an ultramarine and a quinacridone rose, quinacridone rose.
That's the color they don't make anymore.
Hmm?
Is that the color they don't make anymore?
Well, you can still get it for the next few years,
Okay.
and then you won't be able to get it anymore. Anything with quinacridone is limited.
Yeah, I like quinacridone.
I started in
Quinacridone's red, so.
I started in watercolor, so that quinacridones were a big thing in watercolor because they're so transparent. Some of the darks, I have to go back in and reinstate like this beautiful purple right here. I'll probably put just a little, add a little green to that.
I love the edge that the palette knife gives you. It's very unpredictable. This is very, very colorful for me. This is more my style. Grab a little bit of that cerulean that's in the sky and temper it with yellow and to bring it into the sage brush that's in here. Just little pops of that blue. getting too quiet. Where'd it go?
Well, yeah.
You're getting too quiet back there, Scott.
Okay, I thought I'd ask you a question.
Okay.
Just if I heard it correctly, the medium that you use to, when you lay the porcelain, is that quick drying?
Yes, yeah. I love to glaze, like, I'll take a painting at this level and put a glaze of ultramarine blue over the whole thing, or that raw violet over the whole thing, and then start lifting out in areas that I want to pop. A really transparent, thin layer. So I want things to glaze well, to dry while I'm working on them.
Here in Utah, it's so dry, paint really does dry fast.
Yes.
That's nice, I like it. I wish my painter had asked for
See, now the purple's starting to get, the violet's getting a little tempered.
How do you get your eyesight on
I put it on lock, auto lock. And if you don't take it off auto lock, you lose your battery really. It's saturated, let's double that down. And my dough is toast, I must not put my lid on tight. So this is the part where I usually start slowing down.
I've been reserving comment until you get to the foreground. Artists who deal with me know that I think most of them are quite lazy when it comes to foregrounds. And it's always the first thing I look at in landscape painting.
It's so important, it's the first,
So
that's
look-
where your eye
I
comes.
mean, the way I look at the one you've got sitting on the floor there, the bottom third of that painting is my favorite part of the painting. And,
It's my favorite part to do, too.
and so I remember one time I went into Jason Rich's studio up in Mendon, up in Cache Valley. And he got so tired of me critiquing his foregrounds that he had an entire show set out for me to see before it went up to Legacy. And I walked in the room and he says, all right, start picking apart the foregrounds. You know exactly what we were going to talk about. And they were all just spectacular. But I think sometimes it gets to be the rushed part and it shouldn't be the rushed part.
That's where your eye comes in.
You know you're back there painting the buildings and the skyline and the trees, and everybody spends so much time there, but I don't know.
But if you can make a few really great little abstract shapes down
absolutely.
there, it can make the whole painting.
Not to put any pressure on you, of course.
Not at all. But really, that has to be interesting. If it's not interesting where you come into the painting, your eye's just gonna leave. And if there's a place that I'm gonna put more texture, it's gonna be in this area too, because as it goes back in space, you're not gonna feel that same amount of texture. It's gonna get thicker. It's thicker in front and thinner as it goes back in the distance. Are you guys all familiar with E. Martin Hemmings? The Tiles painters. Look up E. Martin Hemmings and his foregrounds at the bottom. And he handles a background with just a dark brush stroke that says, this is the horizon line, no detail on it at all, just a simple plane, and all of his thickness and richness is on the bottom.
Yeah, 30 minutes.
Obviously, I will not be finishing, but we can still get pretty far.
What was the high key artist you mentioned?
T-W-A-C-H-T-M-A-N. No, T-W-A-C-H-M-A-N.
I just looked him up, Shanna, and I thought, I can see his influence in your work. Like, that's
I
so
just
fun.
adore his work. And I encourage everybody to study dead artists because it's stood the test of time, and then you don't need to worry about being too heavily influenced by your peers. J. Allen Weir painted with Trotman too in Connecticut, and he's got some really fabulous high key pieces too. So this is, I'm starting to temper now. Where some people do exactly the opposite. They start out tempered. I have to do everything wrong, everything backwards. My mother used to say backwards. If you use Q-tips, get the cheapest ones you can possibly find. You do not want nice, furry ones. So I'm pretty aware of my edges throughout the entire process. Some people are mostly hard edge with a little soft edge, and some people are all soft edge with a little hard edge. And I fall into that category. I love soft atmospheric edges and then a pop here and there. And I love a painting that's all hard edges with little soft passages for you to move through too, but it's just not who I am. There is one living painter that, well, there's a few that I revere, and one that I studied with, that I just love his work, and it has had a pretty big influence on me, and that's Tim Lawson. You guys are familiar with Tim Lawson's work. The subtleties and the gentle temperature shifts is pretty cool.
I was just in Jackson Hole and Astoria Gallery had a resale of a Tim Lawson.
Oh, yeah?
And I noticed some artists gathered around it. I was like, come on guys, get out of the way so I can see this. And as I came up to it, I was fascinated by his texture buildup and how from foreground to distant sky, he still retained a consistency of that texture. I thought that must be cold wax medium or something, but it was
layers,
fascinating.
He'll
Yeah.
take 6 months on a painting.
Yeah, it was fascinating to see.
Yeah, I don't have that temperament, and we have to paint our own temperament. If it takes me longer than a couple of weeks, I've lost interest. So you have to paint who you are too. I wish I was him, I'm not. Now, this is the point, if I had my cold wax with me, I'd be putting them all over it down in here. If I don't, so I'm gonna use my palette knife. I'm gonna mix up a couple piles of this value with different temperatures. This has got a little more green in it. This is more yellow. This is more purple. How am I doing, Scott, for the foreground?
We're waiting to see.
You're tough. I try not to think too much about the details of the tree till I'm getting towards the end. much more time, Liz?
15 minutes.
I can do this. If I get back far enough, if you get way back far enough, it looks great.
It looks good from over here. I saw an artist one time, he was doing a demo and did what you just did, saying that he wanted to get back away from the painting, but he wasn't really happy with how the painting had turned out. And he just kept on going, and he left. And left everybody just sitting. It was a little bit, it was really weird.
I can see that. Everything in here is so organic. Shapes are so organic that this little thing right here has to be a little more finessed than what I've got it, because it stands out a little more than I want it to. So it's too bright. There we go. That's better. A little more neutral. Seems too precious, get rid of it. This part probably takes me the longest in a painting. It's finessing the shapes after I got a really simple shape down. Because it is all about beautiful shapes. Keep feeling like somebody's watching me. Except for it's that witch. Oh.
Don't talk about Liz that way.
Yeah.
I've got that on recording. Live that one down. Scott sees the two of us coming and he's always saying, "Here comes trouble."
Here comes trouble.
I would normally be using my Neo McGill, but my Neo McGill is now Neo McCool. Okay. Shanisa needs just a little more punch. I think it moves nicely. I probably could spend more time on the trees and then reinforce some of my darks. I'll do that real fast. Just reinforce some of the darks in the bottom of those trees.
What color are you doing that with?
The quinacridone rose, the ultramarine blue, and the quinacridone burnt orange, like burnt sienna. So a very tertiary color, a little bit of everything mixed in. Okay, so what I will do when I get home with that is really fine tune those trees and make them feel it's organic. I love the foreground.
Me too.
That's my favorite part so far. The rest of it, I'll soften a lot of edges and I'll develop those trees a little bit more. Still very abstract, but just give them a little more dimension and soften a few edges back here. This is pretty loud for me. This has got a lot of color for me. I know, here, it's not loud at all, but. Yeah, when I take it home, it's got about a half hour maybe left of standing back and making one brush and then coming back. That's what I'm doing the walking is like, I tell my students, if I make you pay me a dime for every brush stroke you put up there, at this point, you'll be really careful about exactly where you put them and exactly what the value is. So,
Very good. Thank you.